Welcome back, everybody. It's time to hop up back to the winner's side and find out who's going to punch the first ticket to the grand finals between Parallax and Carnage. Aggro joined by Goremizer. They tried to break up the dynamic duo here, Gore, but they just couldn't do it. You know, we had to stick on here and do the desk together once again for what should be a very, very fun matchup because this is as competitive as we expect Brazil to get. I mean, Carnage has got to have the best chance to take down Parallax, right?
Yeah, I think this is the one that is going to be the matchup. And honestly, I mean, we've kind of already seen how Carnage versus In Control goes. So if they end up losing this one, then you could expect to maybe see a rematch in the finals as it comes forward. But this is the one that has been they've been chasing all year. And it's one of the few teams I can say all year and mean literally all year. Not just Phase 2, but at the very beginning, Carnage has always been just behind Parallax. Not quite able to overcome them, not able to beat them in a set, taking maps, taking points, constantly giving them trouble, but never being able to win it. So this is the time, if at all, to show up. It's one of the last chances you're going to get, and you have to do it now.
I mean, Parallax didn't go undefeated up against Ignite. They did drop a couple of points. Again, not mid-fights, but defenses where they didn't get the full shove. So maybe Parallax might end up losing a little bit more up against this Carnage squad, who's had a great Phase 2. I mean, 11-4. Definitely is a record to be proud of. Take a look at those map bans. Warder's Gate, Shattered Desert, Frog Isle, and Jaguar Falls are the bans, and that means we're starting on Stone Keep. I feel like I've said that sentence a lot this weekend.
Honestly, it's just a standard map to start on, right? When it comes down to it, it is the map that I think lets you come in when maps like Bright Marsh and Serpent Beach aren't available. This is, again, very, very neutral. You can come into it, especially if you're Carnage Gaming, depending on whether or not they're first, or Parallax. You get to test the waters a little bit, right? But if you get a 4-0, then you've taken one of the maps that might be easy for them to fight back on and just got it out of there. So you don't have to stress about it anymore and can start taking things back to your own home. And since Parallax are first pick here, I think that gives them a little bit of an advantage coming forward for Stonekeep specifically, just because IO, your ROMs, all these other picks that have been prominent are going to be available for them.
Well, a couple flanks banned right away, interestingly enough. Maeve and Eevee, the first two bans off the board. Then we go back to the front line like we kind of expect for the Makoa, and then Bomb King. Haven't seen Bomb King at all today, by the way. He doesn't get picked at all the whole weekend.
Once yesterday?
Right, and now a Bomb King ban, as we all expected.
I mean, look, this is a good map for Bomb King, and I think based on these bans, I'm looking at this, and this feels like watching a PPL match from a year ago. And it makes sense. Both of these teams, at least for main drafters and guys that are going to come through, have a lot of PPL players on it that were in one of the premier teams that was comprised of our Brazilian players. And so the Eevee, the Maves, the Bomb Kings, the Makoas, all very game-changing in the right hands, and I think both of these teams have those right hands. This should be a hot match, especially now that Torvald's made it through. It keeps things really shaky here. I'm interested to see what Carnage can do to deal with that.
Now they could go IO alongside it, but the storyline continues that Brazil does not seem to value IO the same way that North America and Europe both do. Genos instead is going to be the first support off the board. Feel like, I mean, I get the idea, right? You want to be able to pocket someone like a Xin with the Torvald bubble, with the Genos damage mark. You don't need line of sight like you might with someone like IO, but it's still IO, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, she's still good. The downside is, so this is the only time I think I will say that this IO doesn't immediately make me think Carnage have an immense amount of control, and that is that when you are getting Torvald bubbled, Genos Luminary boosted, and you have something like a Bulldozer, Luna is going to die in, let's say, like 2 hits from a Xin. Like, she does not exist in a lot of these engagements that come through. So if Parallax play this appropriately, IO shouldn't be as big an issue. The problem is that you're dealing with IO and ROM, and Andro, and the Cassie, plus what I'm going to assume is another tank. I mean, they could flex into something like an Inara here for Carnage, and I think it would fit really well into them and cause a lot of trouble for Parallax just in terms of point control.
Man, I love what Parallax has, though. I mean, Xin getting the bubbles and the damage amp, Vivian getting the damage amp and the bubbles, Torvald is a staunch front line to have to chew through, and Genos being able to stay safe in the backline is something that we all expect here in this one. I love what Parallax has, but I agree. I mean, Carnage is looking really strong. Io, Andro, Cassie, Rom, and now Ruckus. Only a second game here in Brazil today.
I really like Ruckus, and I love what he can do, but again, in terms of being able to pop the bubble that's going to be on the other side and dealing with Torvald, I think it's going to take a little while. Cassie, though, works really well with Wrecker, so they already have that. It's part of the reason that she's such a good counter to the Ruckus, but having them on the same squad here is going to help. Plus, there's a con, and Vivian, in fact, so Wrecker is hands down an item that they want to buy on Carnage. I think they have a lot of good point control because that IO comes through. Rom can kind of take case. If Luna goes down, he can take point for them. And so they can just play aggressively. This is a very fish market style draft, but it's something that you build around an IO, and I actually think it has a lot of merits to it. We'll see if Parallax, especially with double damage amp, can really control it.
I love this matchup, man. The two heavyweights in Brazil, Ali, Frazier, just trading strong drafts. Let's see how strong the punches are. Kicking it off here on Stone Key.
It is time to find us our first finalist here in Brazil, Parallax versus Carnage. Dolson and Fawn on the call for you. And Fawn, this one carries so much extra weight because you're looking at Parallax, your favorites probably to win this tournament in this region. That one game advantage, massive. You need as much wiggle room as you can against this Parallax team. If they're able to win up from that winner's bracket, they only need 2 games in the finals to get it done. This is big for Carnage to make a statement.
Yeah, this means a lot to Carnage Gaming to be able to try and take this over Parallax, an undefeated team, and still proving why they're the undefeated #1 seed in Brazil, even throughout most of these games during the PWC. But it seems like things are getting a little bit dicey in the long run. I mean, I like the keep control they have so far, but they've already had to forfeit a lot of position to Carnage. They're doing pretty well with their dive comps so far, and they even get a first blood because of it.
Carnage Gaming off to the races. 1 kill in tow. Aspexy, he'll be the first one to go down. If you're going to lock down anyone on Parallax Gaming, it's got to be Aspexy time and time again. This man has been shot out of a cannon this phase, but Cool is trying to match that pace. Has been able to do so far. Look at Parallax all grouped up around Banana here. While the point still being captured up, Ares adds another. Mitau will pull one back, and it's a bit of checkerboarding going on in the kill feed here. Spexy makes his way back in onto the point, but Luna's there on the assist. Double from Ares on the turnaround shot, 99%. That'll become 100, and Carnage Gaming will tally the first point.
Okay, Carnage, I see you. I understand. Y'all don't want to go down 3-0 against Parallax. I see you.
Sure
I completely get the fact that they are relying on this IO to pretty much set up everything for them. I mean, that's typically what people want to do. They want to drop loot on the point, same thing as always. You've seen it, you heard it. It's the same song and dance that we expect from IO, and just go in. And I think this draft really, really complements that. I was just about to say, I hate Zen individually. I hate him even more when he has a Torvald and a Genos at his back. But when you have a situation like this, I think it's completely fine. They're playing. They're not worried about dying. You can't be when you play those characters. You can't be when you play Rom. You can't be worried when you play Ruckus or Ash or any of the off tanks that are made to be diving. You have to go in. Their job is to feed. It's pretty much to end. That's what your goal should be on the side of Ruckus or Rom or any of those other off tanks. You want to focus, get those kills, and make sure you burn them down quickly.
Right. I mean, Mitau, look, he won a Crystal for Pro Player of the Year. Well deserving of that title. He's got a great community built around himself, but we've given a lot of love to Aspexy for good reason. I mean, this guy has been massive for Parallax Gaming, and now he's got a composition built around him. You've got a Genos boosting you up and a Torvald there as well. This is the Aspexy show. It's got to be for Parallax Gaming to have their best chance at winning Stone Keep right now, and he has been slowed down by Carnage Gaming. 4 ultimates ready to go by Carnage as well. 1 minute left on the clock, but not far to go here on the payload. That's an overpower. Over on a scooter, instant execute back into the base, but how much time has that caused Parallax to lose? They've had to turn some attention away from the cart. But Carnage Gaming, I think rightly so, Fawn, going to take a deep breath and wait for that Rom to get back in the fight.
Seems like the bubble, the billows, it's enough to keep Zen 1v2ing at least the Cassie and the Rom for now. I'm more so interested in the Androxus. He's the one with the accursed arm. There's no overpower. There's nothing it is they really have, and this is exactly why I mentioned it, because I knew he wanted to use it in the back line. That's why he's playing that angle over there. He wants to stay a little bit more grounded by himself, look for an opportunity. to pop that accursed arm, see what he can do in the back line.
Might go
Speaking
in.
of which, my goodness, these kills are just flowing for Carnage right now.
Hey, that all starts off with the accursed arm. The accursed arm itself doesn't do all that much, but did open up some space. And then really the Hexafire from Rochelle, I think, melted down a lot of the shielding. Kronz falls, and then you got a solo tank Torvald attempting to keep that payload at bay, and that's never a good sign. He's there to throw out some bubbles and maybe nullify a target or two, but outside of that, he's not going to be keeping anything away from your base. So Carnage Gaming off to a roaring start here. A lot of it through Ares. Ares 7-1-4 on this Cassie throughout the first couple of points here in this game. And as much as we've talked about Aspexy, a lot of it's got to be on Ares, right? Matching the pressure that Aspexy's going to be bringing.
Yeah, they need to sort of... I'm not too sure, actually. I don't agree with the Yomi talent pick. I think the Guillotine may have been way more important here. Scooter, Rachau are on top of them consistently, and they don't really have to worry about the fear of the ultimate necessarily burning them down. And you have situations like this where they're pretty much maintaining control by Keep in its entirety. He moves out of the way of the through time and space, but it's what I'm worried about this in the back line. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the Ramdam. I'm concerned about the Ruckus Dive. Them getting into the back so easily, so freely, and not really being punished for it either. No one's really able to peel back. They have to group up like this, or otherwise they just don't end up losing. They don't end up winning anything. They don't end up winning any trade.
This is just such a Rochelle pick, isn't it? I mean, this Ruckus and Rochelle, two names that go hand in hand with one another, and it's worked out for Carnage Gaming throughout the first couple of points here. And now maybe a third with 63% on the board. Parallax Gaming able to stabilize for the moment. This is where Midtow can make his money up on the high ground, pouring damage down. Ares falls. It's Outlander who finishes off that kill. A lot of it done, though, by Midtow, and those Sentinels ripping through the health bars of Carnage Gaming. Wasn't nullified down onto one. Now a Hyper Beam gets flying through. I suppose an ultimate that you're not super worried about around here. No real opportunity for a big execute, so just opening up some space for the rest of your team seems to be an okay usage. Parallax Gaming now starting to get close to matching what Carnage Gaming have. 84 to 66% on the point. Rochelle, I believe, still undying here on this bid. The mobility of this Ruckus has paid off in dividends. You hear an overpower ringing through off to the side. They've got one pulled in, and it's Crimson. Perfect target for Parallax Gaming to have. Can you trade out the other support? Sure you can. Carnage Gaming, they pressed down on the gas pedal, and they found the kills they need. Aspexy, he'll go down as well. So will Kronz, and now Carnage Gaming, they've got a chance to win 4-0 on Stone Keep.
Okay. This is the type of play you do love to see. They forced out Aspexy. Aspexy dropped down, touched the point. Okay, he whirlwinds out. What does Rachau do? Rachau focuses on him. Doesn't matter about the Torvald bubble. He pumped the damage into him enough that allowed him to dive onto Outlander, to dive onto Midtown, to make it way easier for him to take care of the DPS, of the healer, because one of them was already missing. And then you have situations like this where now they've been left reeling. It's hard for them to sort of fight back into Carnage Gaming's composition right now. The dive is too aggressive. They don't really have the characters to do that, which is why I believe the Guillotine would have been a little bit better than the Yomi in this situation. I think making Ram and Ruckus scared of diving is what you have to do, and I don't think Yomi does that. Yomi is fine if you want to poke, but then you have situations like this. You already see the accursed arm running through the back.
The ults are there, Fawn. They're not for Parallax Gaming, but they are for Carnage Gaming. This is a big one. If Cool can stay alive and find a kill onto Aspexy, things suddenly become very difficult for Parallax Gaming. So staggered out. Respawn on the Vivian now. A few seconds left on the Torvald. And then Zin will be 5 or so seconds behind those two. A Hexafire. Look at the way Rochelle's positioning himself here. If anyone drops down from the high ground, they're going to eat 6 guns worth of bullets, and nobody wants to risk it. Are you kidding me? Carnage Gaming in game 1 find a 4-0 over Parallax. Not what I expected to start off this set.
Not at all. If anything, you have the conversation about, okay, well, Parallax is going to 4-0 Carnage, an undefeated team in the Brazilian region, #1 seed, and we keep mentioning the fact they're undefeated because that's not easy to do. There's no other team from North America, from EU, that hasn't lost a set, and yet we have Parallax, top dogs, getting 4-0'd by Carnage Gaming. That is unbelievable. I'm excited, super excited for this set now if it's this contested.
Agreed. You know, you kind of go into a set like this tentative because Carnage Gaming have been the best of the rest outside of Parallax, and you're wondering how invested can I really let my heart get, because we know how good Parallax is. Apparently invested. Carnage Gaming, they've come to play. They take game 1 on Stone Keep 4-0. We'll go back to Aggro to break it down.
Well, it's exactly what we expected. A 4-0 here in Brazil, and Parallax. What? Parallax lost? That Kresnik, that can't be right. I mean, Parallax is like they're the best. I mean, they're 15-0. They don't. Maybe they would have lost a game here to Carnage. I can understand, but 4-0 on the very first map. What happened?
It was, I think, the way that the draft came out, because they had tons of power picks, right? I mean, Vivian, double pockets. Yeah. They had the Xin to play around it for a Spexy, but I don't think they really played it to the best way that they could have. They had Vivian constantly staying inside of the keep, getting these pockets, but not really gaining any space with them. When you have a Torvald, you're basically saying, all right, whatever DPS we bubble has to make space instead. And I feel like that didn't happen. All they had was space taken from them all game by this Realm, by this Ruckus. And Scooter and Rochelle really were the ones who commanded this game, backed up by the great play by Ares on Cast.
What a way to start off this series. I equated it to a heavyweight fight, and that's really the way it felt, I think, where both these teams are just going to be trading blows. And in this one, Carnage caught Parallax on the chin with the draft. They really made this one work very well. And now it's back to the drawing board a little bit here for Parallax. Gore was saying before this game, Stone Keep is usually one that's pretty close, well contested, but if you can find a 4-0 victory, it really sets a tone for the rest of the set. What does Carnage finding the 4-0 victory, what does that mean for the rest of the set?
Definitely sets a tone for them, at the very least, going forward, that they can figure out Parallax on a map where one of the big things about Stone Keep is you can adapt. It's a map where that has a lot of different ways you can approach the mid-fight. You can play passive, you can play super aggressive, just control one side and slowly take theirs. A million different ways to approach the map, and Carnage figured them out both times they came into the mid. With different ideas, with different ultimates, Carnage were able to just overwhelm them both times. Even on their last pushes, they kind of abused the fact that they only had effectively one tank. We saw Rochelle just land point blank in Kranz's face with a Hexafire. That's dominance in the moment, right? Just point right there saying, hey, listen, you're not getting away from this, and my team's going to now flood everywhere, and you just can't stop us. You don't have the health to do it.
Impressive work here by Carnage. We have ourselves a series. Parallax looking like they might have been able to just sweep it all, but Carnage clearly came to play here today. Question is, where will we be playing map 2? And that will be Ascension Peak. This one's always a little bit intriguing to me, Krez, because it gets banned a decent amount. And when we see it, it hasn't usually been that close. It seems like teams either spend a lot of time practicing Ascension Peak or not so much time practicing Ascension Peak, and sometimes leads to some one-sided affairs.
It can be, but I think both these teams have definitely played the game long enough to understand how they want to be approaching Ascension Peak. The last push can be very difficult. It's one where the spawn doors are basically right above the objective, right? You can't cap the point without being a stone's throw from the spawn door. They're going to be able to shoot down from you from up there. Can be difficult to convert, but if you can do that and then win those really grindy point fights also, it's a good look. I think just actually managing to convert the payload is going to be the hardest thing about winning this map.
Let's see what happens here in the picks and bans. This one just got ratcheted up a little bit here. And we're still just in the semifinals, so it might not be the last time we see these two teams go up against one another. As right away the EV gets banned, and this is very similar to how the last map started, and now it is exactly the same on how Stone Keep started. It was EV and Mave bans right off the bat. Something about those two flanks, it seems like neither team wants to mess around.
Yeah, especially with the players that they have on them, right? Carnage, they just don't want to give a Spexy EV. They don't want to give him his blasters. Some of the top 5 win rates in the Brazilian PPC are all blasters, and he's basically the only one playing them. So I think that shows how much of an impact he's having on how those champions are kind of succeeding. And then get rid of some dive options from Carnage on the Parallax's side. They've been working those out really well on the last map and in their games in historically in the last couple of weeks. So remove that, force Carnage to take this ROM early. They need him if they want to play an aggressive style. Now Parallax can play for some counter dive. They can go for that Torvald. Not sure if I want Io in the counter dive, but it can work as long as you keep her protected with a strong backline for her to heal, to get her self-healing from her loadout, and of course just to do the damage that she'll kind of lack under that much pressure.
Khan alongside this Io, and it's interesting that two very differing trends between these two. Io has not been picked very much, but she's won every single game where she's been played here in Brazil. Now Khan, who's been played a whole bunch, has only won 1 time out of 9 I do believe, so far here today. So we'll see one of those trends break in this game, one way or the other, as now Carnage just go, thank you very much, we'll take Xin Torvald on the back end. You already have that ROM. That feels pretty good to me, Kresnik. I don't know. I mean, Xin has been dominant all weekend.
Yeah, especially paired with the Torvald. We didn't really get to see it that much last game because, well, Parallax lost so spectacularly. And also, the bubbles weren't really going on the Xin, but it's perfectly paired with him because it chains him from one defensive cooldown to the next. If he has a second to wait between Billow and counter, that bubble kind of crosses that gap and lets him actually get there, but it's not going to be an easy matchup that Parallax are going to give him. Andro can do well at just bursting through that, and Shaolin, of course, with the Sand Trap crippling arrow, can just stop him from using Billow or Whirl altogether, and isolating him is definitely one way that Shaw can succeed. But I like this Vivian here. If they try to counter-engage on that Xin as he goes in with a bubble, especially with the Genos pocket, almost a flip of the comps here, the Vivian can put in a lot of damage to whoever tries to fight him.
Yeah, very, very close to what Parallax Gaming was just running on Stone Keep. The ROM, the only difference there, I believe, for them. Maybe they're trying to teach Parallax how they should have run the composition, and that's some mental damage that can be inflicted. But we see this composition once again, the Shaolin Cassie once again back together here, this time for Parallax. Do you think it's enough to even up this series?
I think it can be, but you're putting a lot of pressure on your DPS and on your IO. If the IO gets hit by that Ramen Xin when the DPS are distracted with something else, whether it be maybe the Vivian pushing an angle, it'll be difficult. That IO really has to be protected because this Xin could just kind of take her down all game.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this one. You can already tell. It's Carnage up against Parallax Gaming, the two top teams here in Brazil. Two squads that we know have that high end. And now we're on to Ascension Peak. Really interesting that Carnage has decided to go with a very similar composition to Parallax. Got to watch out for these two bow users here on Parallax, what they can do here in this one. Ascension Peak about to get started. Carnage looking to go up 2-0 against a team that hasn't lost in all of Phase 2. Let's see if they can do it.
Well, it's anything you can do, I can do better, I suppose, is what Carnage Gaming is saying here. A near mirror draft from what Parallax Gaming had in game number 1. Carnage Gaming is going to try to run here the double pocket composition, still have the Xin, and they got a Vivian on their side as well. The big question of the day is, Fawn, can Carnage Gaming make the composition work?
I think the potential is there, but if we've learned anything, I think there's nothing that wants to stall Carnage out because they locked in the ROM. They don't want to wait. They never really want to. And I think a triple DPS composition with an IO is great. I think having the Luna on point, applying it there, and then worrying about everything else later, just worry about the fighting is great. My issue is what happens when ROM gets onto somebody that doesn't quite have the escapes that they need. I mean, granted, all of them do have some sort of escape, but IO can't spread out those heals long enough. If everyone's getting poked down, I mean, Xin has that poking capability with every heavy slash, with the light slashes beforehand. It's going to be problematic. And if ROM starts running in, like I'm assuming he's about to do it a little bit, then it becomes even worse so because IO can't spread out those heals.
Oh, Ares did so much damage, unable to find a kill. Instead, Kronz turns around for first blood in the game. Cool. Finally finalized one of the kills, and now it's a double kill. If the Xin goes down, I suppose Vivian's another great target for some of this double pocketing. Cool, guns down too, and does the majority of the damage. Adds a third now. Carnage Gaming decimate Parallax. He was one along the way. And Fawn suddenly are looking at Parallax Gaming without a leg to stand on. Carnage can zone out however they please, and they're looking great for point 1.
Yeah, obviously they're going to try and focus on the dismounts if they can, if they can get into a line of sight that allows that, but if they can't, then that's fine. You still have Vivian on your side. She's going to burn down whoever it is that tries to make it on the point exactly like that. She's going Opportunity and Chaos, and here's what I like about the Opportunity and Chaos here that I don't believe I got quite yet a chance to mention about last time. Last time, Parallax went Opportunity and Chaos on Stone Keep. Typically, we see a lot of focus on the booby trap, on the extra health on the deflector shield, suspect everyone, and booby trap are typically the ones that is actually people going more than anything. Opportunity Chaos, pretty great into a single tank composition that has Khan on it. It makes it that much more scary to try and deal with, but clearly Parallax aren't worried too much about that potential outcome considering the fact they just sort of clean sweeped them.
I think they just won that mid fight there. Carnage Gaming looked great to capture that mid, and then suddenly Parallax run back in, take control, and wipe Carnage in a similar fashion to how Parallax themselves were wiped just a few moments ago. It was really the target priority. I mean, Vivian and Xin go down immediately, and Carnage Gaming couldn't fight back in from that point on. Way too staggered out down the back end. Now it's time to look at the defense. Ares with one, Kronz with another. The Be Gone won't end up picking up anything here, but Ares does go down. So Parallax Gaming starting to make some headway in the kills department, trying to get this cart moving in the right direction. So difficult to find a successful push here on Ascension Peak just because of the way things are laid out. And I think Carnage Gaming Fawn are doing so well here, despite losing a couple here and there. As long as you can trade out, you'll be happy.
Yeah, and I think it's going to come down to that Rom being in a good enough position not to get burnt. Because I'm noticing that he hasn't really been crippled like that. He's died, but I don't think there's been any sort of situation that he's been uncomfortable in. It's not like he's been diving in too deep like he is right now, and then he has to find some sort of way to retreat. Obviously, they're going to cripple him, and he's going to end up dying. But I think in how the long run, how things go, that Parallax has still been maintaining control. I was a little bit concerned about the IO having the lack of healing spread, but obviously they have some innate healing in their own kit. They can rely on the con battle shot if you don't have any healing on the side of the DPS. So it's quite possible. It's just I'm just worried about what happens when Bulldozer come online. What happens when Cauterize comes online, right? She can't single pocket a lot of people because they're going to be burnt down. It's going to be focused. And Vivian is the last person you want to scale, but a disengage. Well, and he tries, and I think he actually tried to withdraw onto back onto the even ground, so he didn't get knocked off. But I think all I did was send him more back, and that's unfortunate.
Well, Parallax are going to self-stagger down the end here. I think a Hyper Beam gets used there as well and sends a couple other targets for Parallax off the map. Unfortunate, to say the least there, but great defense for Carnage Gaming starting to build up here. They have to feel like one maybe got away from them on the mid fight where Parallax were able to take things in a 99-99 mid, but that second wind was just too much. We'll have to see if Parallax have a second wind on this payload push here. A couple ultimates could make a difference. Really, the Accursed Arm is the only thing I think Parallax could use to open up any space right now. Scout will be helpful in spotting out that space, but now Dinte going down won't be an option. Overtime is on. Luna there, helping contest. Mitau with the one kill. Cool, though. Rounds the corner here. Plenty of targets for him to work into. And as we expect, Carnage Gaming will tie up the game.
Yeah, and that's what it's going to end up coming down to. I mean, do you still have the double pocket on the side of Carnage Gaming? You've got the Vivian, you've got the Zen, and things just become so much more dangerous. It's a different story when you're playing that composition into a Ruckus ROM. You don't have Guillotine. You have Yomi to try and see if you can poke things out. And compared to this one, where you're running Opportunity and Chaos against a Solo Tank Con, as well as an IO, and into a bunch of squishier targets. Obviously, she has Bulldozer now, but when you have Record 2 already, granted, you're supposed to expect Record 2 at this point in the game, Kron's going to have a lot harder time being anywhere that Vivian's not watching. And it's going to put a huge damper on the success of Parallax the longer the game goes on.
Well, now it's Parallax Gaming. That maybe that in mind, they're going to feel like they have a good chance in this mid. Through time and space from Crimson won't connect. Would have been a big boon to the Carnage Gaming cause. Dintic soars up and over, though, finds Crimson on the back line. Ares, bit of a flank here. Spite ready to go. Just going to third person himself. Another member of Carnage Gaming in there behind Ares as well. Parallax don't think they're privy to it just yet, but Ares walks face first into a world of hurt. Parallax are going to start getting sandwiched here. Dintic again on cooldown kills off Crimson. Crimson has not been able to participate in this mid-fight other than sending an ultimate flying that didn't end up connecting. Carnage Gaming, I don't think it found a kill here yet. Dintic starting to warm up. Ares goes down. And Parallax Gaming, they're starting to look dangerous for their second point.
Okay. Chat, everyone, Dave, Dolson, I have analysis, and it might be some of the most important thing that you'll ever hear.
Hard hitting,
and
right.
I think Kresnik could agree. It's big brain approved by him. I think this is a very, very good piece of advice. Stop letting your healer die. I don't think you keep letting Dintic get into the backline effectively enough. That is twice. Dintic killed Genos out of spawn. he made it out of spawn and killed him again. And that entire fight, for 2 full-on engagements, they didn't have an opportunity to really do much of anything. You see right now, they have the overextension. Of course, they force out Parallax's overpower. And that's why now it seems like they're sort of reeling, if anything. But Carnage are still the ones in control here. They got the overpower, sure, they knock off one of them, but still, I'll keep saying it until I feel like I'll go blue in the face. It is a level of scaling that they have to be concerned about on the side of Parallax. You get those cauterizes, you get that wrecker, Khan becomes less of an issue. Luna's gonna get burnt. Dentic can't hold angles like this anymore because then he can't really be healed or looked at, because that's just the flaw it is, that the weakness it is that Io has. She can't heal what she doesn't see in line of sight, and it's just gonna end up getting worse, I feel like.
Yeah, I can see a similar arc kind of forming here. And on the previous point of Crimson not being able to play, I mean, that's tough for him, especially on Genos. I mean, you see sometimes Genos finish a game with the highest streak just because of how normally safe he is, but there's a microscope on why Androxus gets picked as often as he does, the ability to do things like that. In the meantime, though, a little bit of flash, not a lot of fire in this offensive push from Parallax Gaming. They've gotten a few kills here and there, but Carnage Gaming have largely pushed things back. So could be looking down the barrel of another successful defense from Carnage. And Parallax has it's an interesting ultimate economy situation at the moment where Carnage have everything. Sentinels, I'll still count that in that category. Parallax have just the Scout. So over the next 25 seconds or so, Parallax likely, obviously you want to get this one in, but you're hyper-focused, Crimson! Forget what I was saying before, there's a nice double kill. The battle shout will only keep Kronz alive for so long, and I think that through time and space seals the deal on this defense.
And I think that is probably best case scenario, is you have a situation where they're stuck up in high ground, they can't really escape, they've already committed to the push, they're waiting, they're 3-peeking, doing whatever it is they can to see around corners, make sure they have a proper assessment of the situation, and then that's it. Aha, the aha moment. Through time and space, they're stuck there, can't really get out, covers pretty much the whole area that they could try and get away to, and you have yourselves a double kill thanks to Crimson. I think that is really important, especially having that presence of mind to be able to ult when it is absolutely necessary, and that through time and space couldn't have been any better to help Carnage secure that second point.
Tough, though, that now you don't have it for the mid. We already saw what happened when Carnage missed that through time and space. Obviously, you can't hang that all on Crimson. Name of the game, though, keeping Crimson alive. Dintic will have the accursed arm here shortly, and if he's able to free operate in that backline on Crimson, you imagine this is going to be a short-lived mid-fight yet again from Carnage Gaming. Hyper Beam is here, could be used to open up a little bit of space. Kronz finds one with the overpower. That'll be good for an opening kill here, but immediately trades back. Ares grabs one as well. Scooter stunned down, rooted by a Spexy, who's popped his ultimate. 2 kills now in this mid-fight from Shaolin. Ares, way too many targets to focus on, and a Spexy has his third. Carnage Gaming, you thought it started out better. It's a quad, but it gets taken away by Kronz. Big mid-fight from a Spexy. Parallax Gaming right back on top.
And I think, I had mentioned it before, obviously the scaling is going to be an issue that I personally feel like I still believe it will be, but you have situations where they're running into the same issues that Parallax had last game with this type of composition, and I think it's coming down to the fact that they don't really... Zen can live forever, we already know this, there's a lot of things that can help him stay alive, but if he's being looked at by too many people, he has to find a way out. And with the healer like Genos, and even with the Torball bubble, you have situations like this. He's overextending. Ares is getting a little bit too aggressive, and it's not working out for him, and it hasn't for most of this time.
Cool with a double kill, though, and Carnage Gaming shows signs of life here on the mid-fight. And it's moments like this where you have to kind of scan the horizon, look for what ultimates are going to be coming up. The second wind of the mid-fight is the way I look at it. The Sentinels will be ready to go for Vivian here in a moment. And then it's a Scout shortly after that, through time and space, the one that was used to secure the defense for Carnage Gaming. Could be a difference maker here down the stretch on this mid-fight. Big one, tiebreaker, gives whichever team captures a chance to win. So you definitely want this one if you're Carnage Gaming. Kronz, oh my, he has taken so much damage here. Through time and space is ready to go. Midtow, though, finds the opening kill on the Cool. The Spexy with one as well. The damage dealers for Parallax suddenly starting to get things done here. Around the backside goes Crimson. but it's himself and Scooter against the world, and I don't like their odds. Overtime will melt away, and Parallax Gaming have done enough to get it done.
And I think it was forcing Crimson out of his more comfortable position. You heard the nether steps come through on the side of the Androxus. He got behind into the back line, got the kill, made it work for them. Well, he didn't get the kill, but he forced Crimson out of a situation he was more comfortable in, put him in a different spot, forced him to actually have to touch because they were killing everybody else. Anytime he's spent running, he's not healing, and he can't stop running because otherwise he's going to end up dying to Androxus. So I think that was a very good flank. It opened up a door of opportunities for Parallax. He's eyeing up another diamond space and doesn't quite find it yet. But Ares is in the back all the way trying to stop them, I guess.
Whoa! Wow, Ares from range gets
okay.
a Spexy, but immediately gets turned around on by Dintic. There's a ranged Luna stun for you. Scooter actually will end up falling, I think, in large part thanks to Luna locking him down there for just a moment. His health bar was plenty low. If nothing else, we're seeing Carnage Gaming make another stand here on defense. Fawn, I mean, look, we can't ignore the next minute and a half because Parallax will have some ultimates to try to get this game finalized. But Carnage Gaming need a serious revamp on this mid-fight here because they have yet, outside of the first one, to be able to look competitive.
Yeah, and I think rounding this corner is going to be the hardest thing that Parallax have to do. They go for the overpower, but it even misses. Looking for a Chow or just anyone, I believe, in the back, trying to see if he can find a pick on him. But I think that Rom has to concede the space here. They're going to try and move up onto the high ground once again. Ares, okay.
He's on an island, man. He's on an island on his own.
Yes. At this point, stop pushing. Like, just relax. It's okay. Because we've seen Ares push up so many times, and he's died every single time. There's nothing that's really been created. He hasn't been able to get the kills. He hasn't been able to find what they need to try and secure anything. Now, he's able to get it there, but that's because he has the help of Scooter, and therein lies my point. Wait until you have your teammates to help you out, unless it's a situation like this, where you try and ult, see if you can burn down the con, and it's not enough still.
This is interesting here, Fawn. Parallax Gaming with some great trading there. Able to keep this cart rolling itself forward. 15 seconds left. Carnage Gaming back on the defense. Sentinel Sprout forth for Cool. Got a great angle here on the high ground. Parallax Gaming, Overpower, Be Gone, Scout. Those can get used to finish off this game here should they find the opportunity. Luna gets burnt through. That'll buy a little bit of time for Carnage Gaming as we reach the overtime period. Ares off on his own yet again. Over to the left, though. This time he'll be able to dash his way. Off back to safety. Cataclysm down from Scooter, but no follow-up there. Ares this time able to find the first kill. Rashad with another. Looking like this defense is going to be successful for Carnage Gaming. As close as the cart got, it did not reach its destination, and Carnage Gaming forces on to a 0.7.
Okay, so they definitely have the ultimate economy on the side of Parallax Gaming. If Khan hits this overpower way earlier in the fight, if he gets who he's looking for, which I would imagine would have to be either Scooter or Rachel, I don't think he would waste it as much on the squishier targets. I don't think he would try and overpower a Vivian or anything. Well, actually, no. At this point, all they need is a pick, actually. He's going to try and overpower early. All he really needs to look for right now is a pick, actually. It doesn't matter who he gets.
Like
the score is 3-3. You need something. Right, exactly. The score is 3-3.
Anyone but Rachel, and I'm happy about it. Might be the case. Might be the case. Parallax Gaming, they've got a lot of Haven built up on their side for good reason. That's where all the damage is coming from. Parallax very difficult to burn through. Can Carnage Gaming on a 0.7 mid-fight finally turn around the defensive points into one offensive and push Parallax Gaming down to 0-2 through time and space? Will not help the cause. Parallax Gaming, though, do have to back away. There's a hyper beam. Did Rashad get anyone with it? Oh, he got one, but he immediately gets overpowered back onto the map. Off goes Rashad, but that opened up the door for Ares as well. We said anyone but Rashad is the one who goes down. Dintic will dash his way back onto the map. He somehow stays alive here. Outlander doing his best to sustain the rest of his team. Look at the point percentage in the meantime. 75% for Carnage Gaming. They just need to zone. They just need to keep Parallax Gaming at bay, and I think they've done enough to get things done here. As Spexy turns around, gets the kill. On to Ares. Where are the targets? They are not here. Overtime is on. A Spexy around to the corner here, looking for a little bit of damage. They're body blocking him off. Overtime gets reset here. They have to back away. Midtow with one. Dintic dashes his way in, and a cursed arm gets popped here. Does not get the kill. over onto Cool. Now Scooter back behind the statue. Aries, Scooter combined for a couple. Overtime melting away. Spite is enough to lock down the target. Carnage Gaming go up 2.
I can't believe that.
Unbelievable.
Fight started off super sick. Torvald, okay, I have a hyper beam. I'm going to use it. I want to knock people off the side. Khan recognizes that before he lifts up too far, hits the overpower, throws Rachao off the side. Perfect. That's what that's what they need to keep on going. Right. However, it turns its head around. Aries dives into the back, tries to see what he can do. Doesn't quite get the kill, but everyone else is in chaos. It's absolutely insane that Parallax lose that when they were winning the fights up until that point.
Look, I'm BMing this Torvald thinking, look, he can just live. We don't care. He gets a hyper beam kill immediately in that fight. Wastes enough time with that overpower that Aries is able to melt down some damage. Carnage Gaming, Fawn, they're up 2 games over Parallax here. 1 game away from handing Parallax their first set defeat of the phase here in the PPC. We'll go back to aggro, though, to break down game 2.
How about that? Parallax Gaming now up against the ropes. Carnage withstand body blow after body blow after body blow. I mean, every single mid-fight was going the way of Parallax until the very last one, and that's the one that matters most. What did you see in that one, Kresnik? Because that might have been the most fun game of the Paladins World Championship so far. That was incredible.
I mean, it was so back and forth the entire time. But for me, and that last fight, I mean, other than, of course, the Hyper Beam getting that initial kill, that real difference maker near the end was Scooter. He was in the middle of their entire team. You saw the pressure he was putting at Outlander. Outlander was frantically jumping to try to heal someone through a window off the edge of the map. The Andro just barely alive, and Scooter was just in the core of them. They couldn't burn him down because they were all so low. He buys enough time for them to almost cap single-handedly. Honestly, if Aries hadn't struggled in that other 1v1 there, Scooter was the one who really kept them in it.
What a shot that was from Crimson. I mean, we talk so much about the double DPS of Cassie Shaolin. I think it's pretty easy to win a fight whenever your support solos them both by himself. That was incredible. Aries had an absolutely phenomenal performance here on this Xin all game long. But every single clip is Carnage Gaming defended successfully. Carnage Gaming defended successfully. Parallax was really handling these point fights really, really well. And then Carnage just kind of turned up when it mattered most. What a performance from them. A back and forth game all the way through. It's going to equal some ugly score lines, and we kind of see that across the board for both sides. I just can't believe Parallax now is required to reverse sweep Carnage if they want to stay on the winner's side.
Listen, they've 3-0'd enough teams before. They're definitely no strangers to dominant wins, but on a team that's looking so good against them, this is where it's definitely, I think, going to get the most difficult here. And I want to make a note really quick. Look at the shielding on Rachao for Carnage. Yeah. He shielded as much damage as Kronz took, so he actually did his job as a tank on someone else, and then you had 200,000 soaked by Scooter there. I think that the DPS, of course, I mean, they're the ones who are getting the kills. They're the ones showing up in the feed and having the higher stats. But when you look at it like this, I think you can see really the difference that this Ramen Torvald made. I just find it crazy that the Torv ends up winning in the late game. That's where he's supposed to fall off. That's his worst part of the game. They have Brazil, they have Wrecker, but Rachao really helped in the end.
Huge deal for that Torvald, and I think we'll continue to see that be prioritized as we head to Ice Mines. And if you would have told me Parallax is going to Ice Mines in map 3, I would have said, oh, okay, yeah, you know, a team just trying to slow them down and try and get some momentum back. It's Parallax trying to slow Carnage down and take them all the way. As much as that last one went the distance, Ice Mines certainly has the potential to do the same.
And I also want to say that Carnage, this is a massive improvement for them, because their last set they played in the PPC, they lost to Ignite, who got eliminated. So they've clearly just shown up here. They had this in the pocket for this, and they're showing up when it matters, luckily for them. But Parallax, they got to feel comfortable here. Spexy is a really flexible player on blasters. He's kind of pushed almost all of them to the top win rates in the Brazilian PPC right now, and Carnage clearly know that. They're going to ban that BK just like they did on map 1. Got them to some success there, so on a map even closer range where he succeeds even more, it makes sense to get rid of him again.
The Torvald and Rom Don't want to play against either of those. That makes a lot of sense to me after what we just watched on Ascension Peak. Bomb King and Makoa are the bans. There's still plenty of blasters available. Willow notably open here. Spexy would like it. Don't know if that's going to be heavily prioritized towards the top end of the draft because I don't know how much Carnage is willing to go in that same direction, but something I'm going to be keeping my eye on as this draft continues.
Yeah, they have flexible enough players, I think, to go in that direction. But it makes sense for Parallax to, I think, go towards the Ashe. But Carnage, Parallax are more taking the general what we want to pick up. Carnage is more aiming towards the, well, we're taking Terminus because it's Ice Mines. Of course we're taking Terminus. He can block lanes on his own with his Siphon. He has a great ultimate. We'll get Khan because he has a great ultimate as well. And, of course, him being able to match up into the Terminus, I think, in a decent matchup for him. You want to eliminate that from the enemy team, plus it's also good into the Ashe. So in general, flexible pickup here. And then it's Ice Mine, so pick up the Tiger. The bouncing primaries help a lot when you're harassing windows, and that sword piercing the Terminus Siphon, piercing the Con Shield, it'll help Parallax get an edge, I think, on any tank who tries to get too aggressive.
Very interesting, though. I mean, we haven't seen Tiberius all weekend, I think. I think this might be the first Tiberius of the Paladins World Championship, and I was asking you guys about him, and you said he's good. He's just kind of map dependent. But we still haven't seen him either way, which I think is noteworthy. So we'll see how well he can perform here on Ice Mines. As Cassie and a Ying being hovered, Io, Corvus, Grover, all still available, all of whom have looked pretty good this weekend. Why Ying right now for Carnage?
Spammable ult and a lot of sustain. That's the real reason you do it, I think. I mean, yes, you can cauterize her healing, her Illusory Rift in her ult, but if you pick Damba for that kind of pocket potential and that impactful ultimate, late game resilience turns on. You already have a couple different sources of it on your team, so let's focus on no CC raw healing and maybe let our tanks get away with getting slammed by that heavy blade thrown out by that Tiberius. Parallax, I do like the Eevee in response to it, though, because if you get that Ice Storm onto the Ying, doesn't really have as good of a chance surviving unless she happens to be in between all of her illusions already.
Going to be an interesting pickup there as Fernando and Xin are the final two selections. Couple champions that we really haven't seen all weekend. Both Tiberius and Ying have been pretty absent so far. Kresnik, there is no way Parallax gets swept, right? There is no chance they get 3-0'd.
I'd love to agree with you, but look at what Carnage have. They have Reanimate, they have 2 Executes on Ice Mines. Unless Parallax's tank ults are some of the most immense I've ever seen, Carnage are poised to make this happen.
Unbelievable storyline here. Parallax, the 15-0 team here in phase number 2, a team that we thought had a chance to outright run the table in individual points, now on the verge of going down to the loser's bracket. Can Carnage complete the sweep over Parallax?
We had serious upsets on Friday afternoon when we were in the North American portion of the Paladins World Championships. Now we're over in Brazil, and it's wild to say that a 1 versus 2 seeded matchup could be an upset. Obviously, the 2 beating the 1 in some regard is, but this is a 15-0 team. That is massive. This Parallax team has not lost a set. Now they've got to win 3 straight games. Fawn, the desk really zoned in on a couple of those execute ultimates that Carnage Gaming are bringing to the table. Do you think that's enough to get them over the finish line?
I have to agree with Kresnik. I really think the guillotine, the overpower, you pretty much have 2 ways to secure kills, and that makes it so much harder for Krons, for Dintic to really get anything started for them. Number 1 counter of Ashe, in my personal opinion, always has been Khan. I don't know if that's up for debate or anything, but I think the overpower, the commander's grab, it's too strong to deal with the assert dominance. It's just too much. And look, they're getting run down on the side by some of the tanks as well. They actually already in their opposing high ground.
Carnage Gaming, they can smell blood in the water, and Ares is the one leading the charge. Oh, there's some turnaround potential. That's why you pick a Tiberius. Nearly a 3-kill swing for Ares. That likely would have been backbreaking here in this mid. But Midtown staying alive, and now Ares picking up another kill as well. I think this is smart from Carnage Gaming. You can't afford to lose anyone else because Parallax Gaming coming back in force here in just a moment. Carnage Gaming will stall out at 36%. Parallax fighting back in.
It seems like for right now, Spexy's trying to do what he can to get poke onto Carnage Gaming of anyone, more so just the Terminus, to see if he can prevent them from immediately making it to point. He chunks him pretty low. Of course, that means everyone else is going to full send in, try and see if they can find anything that will get them a potential kill.
Well,
but maybe
they don't get a
Dintic
kill.
overextended a little bit too much. It ends up paying he ends up paying the price.
Ares turns around one, immediately taken down by Midtown. Look at the positioning this Tiberius is taken here. He'll pop the ultimate. Midtown wants to go now. He's found Crimson in the back. Should be an easy target. But enough transformations has kept Midtown at bay. He'll turn around, deal the final blow. Crimson will end up dying. And now Parallax Gaming in perfect position to take point number 1.
It seems like they might actually be able to, because there's no way they get past this. Look at the heavy blade damage. That chunk, that AoE
Huge.
is so much. It's huge to have to deal with, if anything. And it also goes through Terminus Siphon, depending on where it is you actually throw it. The Tiberius is top damaging right now. We mentioned it, I believe, a little bit yesterday, or at least in passing. I don't remember if it was on cast or off when we were talking about the games, but we had brought up the Tiberius beforehand, and Tiberius is a good character. This is exactly what you mean.
Nice.
But through time and space, that's about as good of an opportunity as you would want. Even forces out the Immortal.
Immortal gets used by Parallax Gaming. They sense maybe an opportunity to make up a lot of ground here on this cart. You got to take those opportunities as they arrive, especially on Ice Mines. Crimson will delay things out a little bit longer. Always fun to watch a Ying try to escape those situations. And now this cart gets moving quickly. I actually think Parallax good to use those ultimates there. Immortal's obviously a pretty big one through time and spaces as well. But now you've given yourself a great chance to convert.
Huh. You know, I thought about it, and well, I mean, you already have the overpower to actually be used to potentially get the pick, but one thing it is I'm curious
nice
about
shot.
is it's Ying and not Grover. I actually thought that would have been perfect for their draft on the side of Carnage Gaming. Would have even gave them plenty of anti-dive potential. Would have stopped the Ashe. Would have prevented the Fernando from really from his ult having a lot more mileage than it probably should because of the Whirlwind. I feel like the Grover may have been a little bit more better here, but it seems like for the most part that Parallax are really leading the charge right now. There's not much that's been done except for the fact that they will get this pick on Dintic.
The card did slow down a little bit, as you'd expect right around here. Overpower a moment ago gets used up, 35% on that one. So now it's really Overpower watch in my mind, in that, you know, you give Carnage Gaming, I think, a little leeway on losing that first mid fight because so much of their team fight revolves around finding these instant executes, whether it's the Overpower or whether it's the Spite. And now, in all likelihood, Fawn, this is kind of regardless of whether this gets defended or not, so we'll have to return to this point in a moment. You might not have maybe one of the most important ultimates going into that next mid, but I'll hold that thought as Parallax Gaming have now made their way back towards this cart. We will make our way into an overtime here at some point. Watch out for just one pick to make all the difference here. Mitau thinks he can win this engagement with Cool, but Aspexy goes into the back. Crimson finds the first shot. Aspexy finds another. Mitau, Cool, both go down. Kronz falls as well. So now point tanking duties and contesting goes over to Dintic, but the domino's starting to fall here. Parallax Gaming just losing a little bit too much health a little bit too quickly. And Carnage Gaming will tie up this game.
I am a bit taken aback by the fact that this is exactly what happened on Ascension Peak. We had a very strong start from Parallax. Very good mid-fight, great confirms, allow themselves to get the points. You have both of their DPS up at the top, leading the charge in terms of damage. And then you have a situation like this where they get a little bit too overzealous, or somebody may have overextended, or Carnage Gaming were just ready to end up getting the pick. They wanted to force something. Regardless, it still ends things at a 1-1 on Ice Mines already. And I think what's important to keep in mind here is that once that overpower is up, that's going to be huge. And I think Terminus Scooter is just going to play a lot more aggressive. He has that reanimate. He can dive in if he needs to without really having to worry about much.
That's a great point, Fawn. And just before that final skirmish, I was wondering where this overpower would be charged up to. It was low, and now you can just consider it up and ready to go here over the next couple of seconds. Carnage Gaming coming into this fight exactly where they want to be. Outlander hits another one. Are you kidding me? This guy has continued to give his team an edge in some of these fights, but right now it's just a trade. Mitau will use the ultimate here, and what an area to use it in where you can make maximum use of all that spatial damage, but he'll have to back off for just a moment. Aspexy continues his tear throughout this game, and Ice Storm will drop down, keeps Carnage Gaming at bay. But Carnage Gaming in such a dominant position here, point-wise, 66%, and a chance to zone.
It seems like for right now, the Spexy needs to find some shots that will allow his team, that will lower the health bars of Carnage Gaming. So that way it'll be a lot easier for Parallax to maintain control over the objective. You don't want to force out, I was just about to say, you don't want to force out the Fernando ultimate if you can help it. But already, you see how heavy it's being moved into. Midtown gets a kill on the right-hand side as well. This fight still is up in the air.
Rochelle goes down, but so does Kronz. Spexy continuing to be a thorn in the side of Carnage Gaming. What a game that this Eevee has had so far. Overtime is melting away. Realizing they have a little bit of time, Carnage Gaming are going to slow things down here, but Dintic has other thoughts in mind. It's 42% climbing, a triple kill for Dintic. What a turnaround from the Ash out of nowhere. And again, Carnage Gaming look like they might be denied.
It all came down to the fact that Dintic was just in the better position to do so. I mean, you had Tiberius on the sides already firing out his chakrams, letting them bounce, hitting people around corners, and he's just chilling in the back. He doesn't have to move in if he doesn't need to. He just needs to make sure that he's always shooting something, always firing. Even if they get the Genos in the back, it doesn't really matter because of the fact that they are just so in the lead here. No, the guillotine wasn't even used, actually, and I'm kind of surprised by that. The guillotine was sort of held onto and not really expended.
That is brutal, you know, for Carnage Gaming. You got to feel like you've given yourself your best chance possible on winning that mid fight. All you need to do is zone out effectively, and you're unable to get that done. I think Spexy has really started to come alive. Ooh. Obviously, Dintic has as well, and now he wants to do it again.
Man.
You love to see the setup. Outlander 3 for 3 on the through time and space here in this game, and he'll add another one. Is it enough, though? Cool. He wants to answer that question for me and says no, it's a double kill. As we speak on the Zin, could be a triple around the side, and of course, Cool will find that one. So a minute and a half left, and Carnage Gaming finally have to hit the brakes.
If they hold on to the zone long enough, which I don't think they'll be able to do because they just had a few missing members. They lost a couple on that ensuing fight. Since they lost them, they won't really be able to make it back on. They won't really be able to get a better zone, excuse me. They will be able to make it back on the side of Parallax Gaming, but Carnage won't really be able to push up, get a better zone that prevents them from getting to the cart more easily. It all depends on how this next overpower is used, which I don't even really think he even needs to. I think he just needs to have some support here on the sides because they're going to come over and try and fight him. It's just not going to end up working out, and they have to be able to help. Good peel from the Terminus Siphon.
He lives for a moment, but then Midtow will close the gap, get a double kill for himself. It's the game of multi-kills here, apparently. And watch out, Carnage Gaming. You're going to lose Ares here as well. There's going to be a heavy stagger. Both your frontliners will be back around at the same time. But then Cassie, 5 or so seconds behind that, will likely see them slow things down, wait to get back out at the last possible moment, and that moment is now. But there are 30 seconds left. Carnage Gaming, they need one big sweeping fight to get things done here. Midtow being at half HP will definitely help things out. He'll turn around a little bit of damage over onto Cool. 15 seconds left now, so the timer has been halved. Likely one overtime period, one last final fight to decide this one. Look at the Ice Storm from Spexy. It's locked Carnage Gaming in place. Big damage numbers pouring on through. Ares goes down, and Rochelle is right behind him. And Immortal gets used here as well. The cart rolls in. Of course it does. Parallax Gaming. They'll go up 3-1.
Okay, now all they need to do is make sure that they hold on to it for now and don't end up getting reverse swept by Carnage, although that's a little bit easier said than done, considering the fact they have the guillotine, they have the overpower, they have the reanimate. They're going to do the same thing that I mentioned last time. Scooter's probably going to force something onto the opposing enemy's high ground. He has the res, so he's not too concerned about it. Didn't got the kill on him last time, but also Ares and Rachao were pushing up that same sort of high ground from a different angle and managed to get the kill on Dintic and control it from that point on. It's a matter of how these ultimates are used. Obviously, the scout is going to get used just for intel, but I think the true story here is that guillotine. If they manage to melt people down in time at the appropriate time, it matters. Rachao's probably just going to hold his overpower until a certain dominance gets used, I would imagine.
Spexy has just been disgusting this game as well, hasn't he? This Eevee has been maybe the difference maker. Outlander, 100% on through time and space. He'll hit this one. Not for a kill, though. Guess you give him some credit for that. Midtow will be first blood in this fight. Immediately followed off by Scooter, but the reanimate puts him right back in range of the fight. Illusory Rift, you hear that one ringing out in the background. But Spexy continues his tear through Ice Mines. It's another kill on the board now for the Eevee. You got to imagine this is Carnage Gaming's best chance with Fast Cap on their side, and they've fallen just a couple ticks short previously. You need to get these
Oh,
kills,
man.
though, and of course Dintic's going to survive. And Aspexy will do the same as well. He's burning away on a 20 streak. Is Aspexy, and now Cool not in a position that he wants to be. The Spite won't get the kill. Midtow gets the double. Is this the end of the road for Carnage Gaming on Ice Mines? A good zone will make it a yes.
It seems like that's pretty much all she wrote for now, unless Carnage can find a way back in. The Terminus Siphon is out, but Tiberius has other plans in mind. He wants to get into the back line. Stop him. Look at the chunk. Look at the damage of the heavy blade. Everyone else on the side of Parallax keeps him locked down. And Midtow goes in the back. That's pretty much game. They can't get to touch the objective. My goodness, that was well played by Midtow.
Onward to game 4. These KDAs are going to be looking pretty good, I think, for Parallax Gaming. That's a quick Ice Mines, and maybe just what the doctor ordered to start to turn things around here in this set when you've lost 2 straight to Carnage Gaming. 1 map at a time, and this is a team that can absolutely do that. I think Aspexy there, pivotal, allowing for a lot of setup and a lot of good damage numbers.
Yeah, I agree with that too, and this is why the Tiberius has a lot of good opportunities to be used on certain maps. Ice Mines is one of those maps where you can feel more comfortable with him on, and you saw how much it mattered when he threw his heavy blade to those choke points, snapped his fingers, everyone gets hit for 850, it chunks people, and you still have to worry about the chakras bouncing around. I love the Tiberius pick, and I feel like it was definitely a pivotal part in Parallax's success.
Well, we officially have a set now. Carnage Gaming, no 3-0. Parallax fight their way back in. Game 4. Right after this break.
Well, the series continues. Parallax, as we all knew, would not go down without a fight. They win Ice Mines pretty convincingly here, Kresnik, and force us to a game number 4.
Yeah, and I really thought Carnage were just going to take it there with the comp that they ended up with, but I saw them really holding on to some things for a lot of the time. Cool NZ just sat on that guillotine for too long. I lost count. I was trying to remember how long. It was just too long, and then he used it in front of everybody. So Carnage, some misuses in Parallax, some great teamwork makes that almost insurmountable to go up against. I felt like Outlander had set up for all of his ults, and I felt like Aspexy, just any pressure that went on him, they immediately sent 2 people to help him stay alive.
Now, I don't know if it's just Mitau or the fact that it's just Ice Mines, but Tiberius looked pretty good here, Kresnik. I'm surprised if this is what he can do that we haven't seen more of him.
He's great on this map, especially into shield tanks, because that sword pierces any shield that gets in its way. So anytime Termin's pushing him with a Siphon up, anytime Khan wants to actually make space against him, suddenly you're hit for 1300 and you're slowed for 50% through your shield when you thought you were safe. So all of that adds up when you can do this and just throw chakrams into windows and get free kills. Also, if you can do stuff like that, good lord, Midtown with the tracking on that whirl over there. One can do that, it helps, but having an Eevee going 13-1 to take pressure off you, I think helps quite a bit too.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt. I don't think that hurts at all. Spexy, unbelievable for performance. I mean, when your damage dealers are going to go 26-6 combined, you're going to win a lot of games. And that's exactly what Parallax does right here. Impressive healing performance from Crimson. The Ying certainly put out the healing numbers that we needed from her. Pretty considerably above the Genos, but the Genos extra utility of amping damage, pretty hard to ignore.
I'd say really, really hard game for Ares in particular, too. Dintic was kind of uncontested a lot of the time, I felt. Even though he went down, that's just, I think, part of him going so aggressive, and Dintic will die for a Spexy to stay alive. At the end of the day, Rishao couldn't really stop that Ashe aggression, and Ares ended up kind of on the blunt end of it for almost all the dives.
So with that, Parallax now back in this series, 2-1. A reverse sweep is what they need, but feels a lot more manageable, needing only 2 in a row, right? 3 in a row, it seems like a lot. 2 in a row, a little bit more manageable. Fish Market is going to be the call, and as Gore said, we've seen a lot of Fish Market here this weekend.
Because teams are target banning each other's maps because they're preparing for each other. You know, they're going into this ready. They know that they want to have any leg up you can. If you ban 2 of their best maps, now that we're at number 3, you're going to have to go to Fish Market. You're going to have to go to your Ascension peaks to still have something to flex in the map pool. So not surprised, I think, to see Carnage going here. Brazil also tends to love it with the way that they can play, I think, right up their alley. Carnage, I would ban it too. If he goes 13-1 against me, I'm banning it too. It's just not worth it as Parallax continue to stop Carnage from being able to get that aggressive.
Yeah, we keep going, oh, wow, Eevee Mave bans an awful lot. Weird, but okay. And then we see what happens when Eevee gets through, and we all kind of understand that a Spexy is not allowed to get his hand on that pick, at least for a little bit longer. As both teams really taking shots at, I think, the other team's identity. The flankers have been very strong for Parallax, so Eevee, Xin are the bans. The dive tanks have been very strong for Carnage, excuse me, so they take away Rom and Ruckus. I was right, by the way, it was Carnage, and that's why Parallax is banning them. But that does leave open the Torvald once again here for Carnage.
Yeah, the Torvald is going to be good on this map, especially depending on who they manage to get to pocket with it, of course. If Parallax want to get aggressive, they will have to go through that Torv. And Maeve looks like aggression will be on the table, especially paired with an Ashe. We saw Dintic on the Ashe perform, I think, great last game, even with a supposed answer in that con. Torv now has to fill that same role of nullifying the Ashe out of dashes, catching her during her ults, maybe even using his Hyper Beam to knock Ashe out of her ult. A lot of things that this Torv might have to do. And I'll even have the backup with the Khan, whose win rate is somehow going further and further into the tank every single time he gets picked. He was doing great in the other regions, too. Brazil just seems to not be performing as well with him. He has a great potential to bully. Maybe the off-tank players in general are just better at avoiding him and keeping their distance. This is a map where you can do that. It's pretty wide. Just pick the side he's not on.
It's so crazy. I mean, a 92% win rate, or pick rate, 9% win rate, I think is what I saw. That's insane. That's actually pretty nuts. As Strix is the pickup here for Parallax. I mean, Fish Market has some of these longer sight lines. We've seen snipers do very, very well on this map. So Strix kind of makes sense. He's really been the premier one so far this weekend. You pair that with a Genos, now you're basically executing people with a headshot after the damage amp. Pretty standard combo here for Parallax.
Yeah, I actually love the start of this for Parallax. I think all those characters perform great with a Luminary boost. Ashe even gets more sustain than others. Usually, Ashes tend to play lifesteal at 50% in their build, so if you're doing more damage, you're getting more health. It just works when you do it that way, and that'll help survive when they actually get on top of that IO. And I like this little ending here. I like the Cassie in response to what they have. Not only do you now have Scout for the Midnight, that Ashe is going to get knocked away from the IO if she tries to get too aggressive and dive in, as Parallax Ending with Nando, they have the same tank composition as last time, and I mentioned, hey, they can win this, they can turn this around if their tank ults do a lot, if they have a lot of impact. They did. And the same thing can work on Fish Market, even though it's so wide. You can go in with Immortal to protect your team, you can use that assert dominance to make a lot of space. Parallax, again, if these tanks manage to perform exactly what they have to do, they have a great shot.
I'm just looking at what this Mave is going to be able to do. I mean, when a Spexy goes 15-1 in the last game and looks that good, I think that you're immediately looking for, can the flank provide as much damage and utility as we saw from that Eevee? Parallax Gaming, not out of the woods quite yet. Still have to trudge through Fish Market and find their way to a Game 5. See if they can do it.
Carnage Gaming, they like the Torvald compositions, and they'll run another one here with another chance to put Parallax Gaming down into the losers bracket. Fawn, there was some concern expressed on the desk around some of the tanks here in this matchup. Fish Market, definitely a great place to be thinking about that. You got Just a Con, if we're kind of ignoring the Torvald for a moment, for Carnage, and then Fernando Ash for Parallax Gaming. Looks like there's going to be a lot of fighting and then point capping later, though got to look at that IO for Carnage as well.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting here is there's always a time where I'm concerned if I see a Genos on either side, because that Luminary is going to come into effect when Strix hits you for a headshot that's going to be for 1950, almost 2,000 damage, almost 2,000 of your health is going to end up being gone if he manages to hit it, even by accident, if he's boosted by Genos Luminary. I like the prioritization of the early, I love the prioritization of Wrecker, Bulldozer. You need to be able to burn that Conchio. It's solo tank. And it's also, obviously, Luna going to be dropped on point. You want to make sure you burn those down quickly enough so that way they're at a disadvantage later on.
A bit of Rezil, please, says Carnage Gaming. 4 out of 5 team members had that on their side. Certainly worth the effort, and some of it. Mitau, the roaming hand cannon, will find first blood here, but immediately gets traded out by Cool. A double now for the Androxus, looking for a little bit more. Give Carnage Gaming an edge. But you gotta keep Luna in mind. All of this time, Carnage Gaming are gonna be fighting out, putting out pressure, and they're gonna be capturing the point in the meantime.
He's managed to even this up as well. Cool being at the right spot at the right time means that he was able to make things work out for him. Tintic, I believe, was pushed all the way into the spawn on Carnage's side, and he's a little bit overextended. That's how I'll phrase that one. It might be a little bit too deep in there, and because of that, he's gonna get punished, obviously, and get killed. So now they're missing a man, and now that puts some hurt onto the front lining position of Parallax Gaming. But if you have Mitau on the Strix, and he's still hitting shots like that, maybe you're less concerned about whether you've lost a tank or not, and more so concerned about how long is it going to take you to actually capture this point? How long will they be able to stall? Well, ultimately they have by this point in time, but a double kill already, a triple for a Spexy.
My man is starting to warm up on this Mave. I can't believe Cool earlier on kind of pre-peaked or re-peaked that Mave and started warming things up. Yeah, I mean, look, you can't ban out everything against the Spexy, and that's what you expect him to do time and time again. Triple kill on the Mave out on the back end of the mid-fight here. Carnage Gaming, this has been the theme for them in the mids. They've gone up to 99, close to it %, and just haven't been able to close things out. A Spexy nearly lives there. Cool will luckily find some of that long-range damage. Obviously not how you want this Fish Market to start off if you're Carnage Gaming. And now you're concerned that a Spexy might have another world beater of a game.
Look at how far up Strix was during that. I mean, Ash, of course, used the assert dominance. She wants to get into the back, try and lock him down, forces out to be gone. But look at how aggressive Strix is being. You would have thought it was 2 flanks and not a backliner that actually was on the side of Parallax Gaming. Mave, of course, Spexy is popping off from the Mave. He's throwing out things left and right, throwing out the daggers, making sure he's chucking people down. But Midtown is taking these more aggressive positions, using the stealth to move in, willing to take fights against characters like Androxus and Cassie, and anyone that might pose a little bit more of an issue for him due to the sudden movements. And it's clearly working out for them, just like that overpower worked out for Khan.
Ooh, cool. Great way to weave your shots in there. Likely fall, get some battle shout healing, so actually he'll stay in this fight a little bit longer. Torvald holding his own on the right-hand side of the fight as well. Messy here. This is going to benefit Carnage Gaming through and through, and they'll get a nice sweep over Parallax. They're going to have to back off. And so this, you know, as worrying as the mid-fight was for Carnage Gaming, the fact that you've been able to hold it successfully as they have right around this hill, it's got to be something to hang your hat on, though. You got another 40 seconds to defend against a Parallax team that have a couple of ults they could use.
Yeah, I entirely agree with that as well. I mean, the Midnight can be used to actually force out the engagements here. Of course, you have the Hyper Beam to stall things out. Anyone's trying to touch to contest for overtime, you're going to hold them off of the point, you're going to hold them off the map, anywhere that just keeps them from pushing on to your team, pushing onto the objective and making things work out for them. But especially already getting the kill, I think they don't even really need to use the Midnight. There's trades that are going more so in favor of Parallax, and that puts Carnage at a great disadvantage.
This card, I think, going to get very close, if not entirely in here. Spexy is still alive. Now it's Rochelle. Last line of all. It's so unfortunate with the Hyper Beam. Gets pushed up against the cart, but unfortunately, Cool will pick up a kill here for Parallax Gaming. Now he'll dash away. Didn't tick in range as well, but the shoulder bash is defensive. So Hyper Beam does just enough, I suppose, and gives Carnage Gaming their first point of the game.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to, once again, Mittal being posted up in the back, free firing where he sees fit. There's not a lot of pressure that's happening to him right now, so Strix is, for the most part, uncontested. I think this round, obviously, we will see the Midnight from a Spexy just to see if they can force things, disorient Carnage Gaming, make sure they can play off of these very heavy angles, because not only is it scary having to deal with the Mave in the dark, but you also can't see Strix or where he's positioned. And since we know Mittal likes to play these more aggressive angles, pushes up, uses the stealth, gets the kill, and then doesn't even move back out, just stands his ground, or will push even more forward, then this will become really, really scary. They may not have an assert dominance, but that Midnight could be pretty huge on the side of Parallax Gaming. It might even force out the Accursed just to stop it.
That's right. It's the counter punch after the Midnight gets used that you have to look out for in the ultimate department, at least. Be Gone is here. Midnight used. Scout used. There's your counter punch. Ares is going to give his team the sight that they need. So both ultimates kind of fizzle out, one for the other. You take those trades. Cool, though. That's the big one here. Gets a kill onto Midtown. No more Strix, but immediately gets traded out now by a Spexy, as Ares will dash, or walk his way, rather, around the corner. Cool, still feeling confident in where he's at, but he's jumped up above, and a Spexy is there waiting. The daggers are obviously going to hit from that range. So Cool just a bit caught out there, and a Spexy still lurking in the waters. Around to the side he goes. It's 81% and climbing for Carnage Gaming. Luna will get taken down, so point capture being slowed down. Ares has to dodge roll his way away as Parallax Gaming starts to regain some control.
He's going to try and be a little bit more aggressive, but Spexy was there right in the nick of time to make sure that they couldn't be any more aggressive than they permitted, and the assert dominance as well to start things off. Things are going haywire for Carnage.
Carnage Gaming, they have just not been able to fight against the retake of Parallax Gaming here this set, and this mid looks no different. Rochelle will go down on the back end of this fight. Parallax Gaming, they fought back in again, and they'll have their second point and a chance to push for their third. This has just been a thorn in the side of Carnage Gaming. They have just not been able to successfully complete these mid fights here as of late. Think all the way back to Ascension Peak. They won one mid at the end, despite maybe leading in percentage on a lot of them. Parallax Gaming's retake has just been flawless.
Yeah, and I think that's not only a testament to the skill of Parallax, but also just purely based off of the fact that things are becoming a little bit more dire for Carnage, especially since it seems like Parallax sort of hit their stride. They found out what they needed to do, the drafts, they need to take the characters they feel like they need to lock in, and it's working out for them. It has been since Ice Mines, and I think that is more of a testament not only to the skill of Carnage, but also the skill of Parallax. Of course, Carnage deserves the respect for having to push Parallax this far. Right. And Parallax deserve all the credit for being able to adapt so quickly, and it's working out for them so well. They're stuck in spawn and getting killed consistently.
And now, this card is getting very close, dangerously close to putting Parallax 1 point away from tying things up and sending us on to a game number 5. Cool will use all of his dashes, get himself around the corner here. Minute and 15 seconds left, and Midtow's going to have something to say about it here. Just shy on one shot there from Scooter. Cool with the opening kill. Outlander with the second, though. Scooter goes down. Free shots, misses the dodge roll on Ares, so the Cassie's still in this fight, but hits Crimson on the back end. Double onto Ares. Rochelle still involved. He has a Hyper Beam. Might need it here because Cool has some trouble with Crons, but ultimately picks up the kill there. Now you're just going to stagger out the last surviving member of Parallax Gaming here, but there's still plenty of time left.
Yeah, you're sweating if you're Carnage right now. You did, the cart was right there. Midtown pulls out a double, something you probably weren't expecting for him to get those 2 kills back to back in quick succession. Means that it stalled out even their defense against Parallax Gaming. But them overall having this defense means that they have very little time to work with on the side of Parallax Gaming. Now, it depends on what they feel like needs to be used on the side of Carnage, if anything at all. They're trying to get the pokes, but the healing might be too much from the Genos, as well as the built-in lifesteal some of these characters have. It might make it even a little bit more harder, and Midtown starts things off with a kill on Ares.
Yeah, that's a brutal way to start off this defense. Dintic, though, gets traded out. A double kill for Rochelle. You don't see that often on the Torvald. Carnage Gaming might have done enough here. Midtow's going to be the last line of defense. He's found himself a nice little nook in the back line of Carnage Gaming. But a Strix will not be able to get it done, and by the skin of their teeth, Carnage Gaming hang on, and we'll go into a 2-2 mid.
Yeah, and I think that's more so due to the fact that, of course, Midtown was in a great position, but them getting the pick that they did, getting the kill immediately onto Ares seemed like it was going to be a bit of a rougher fight for Carnage Gaming. But from that point on, they were just able to make sure they got the kills that they needed to be absolutely more relevant in the long run of things. You got 64,000 damage on the side of Midtown. He has record 3. He's got Bulldozer 2 now. He's not concerned about those items anymore, and is more so just going to be burning loot on point every single time. So Crimson really has to be careful. It's gotten to that point in the game where you have to be more cognizant and cognitive of what the enemy team has and what they're offering, and I think you have to be able to respect that. Might put a damper on Carnage's strategy.
Carnage Gaming's strategy has been to get on the point with Luna and hope that you can fight it out well enough to secure the point. And they have not been able to do so either of the mid fights here on Fish Market, and have had trouble with it throughout the game, as we've already talked about. Scooter with the overpower.
Yep.
This time connects. Instant execute. Yeah, you thought, but the assert dominance right back onto the map. Saves the life of the Ashe here, and Parallax Gaming realize they've now traded ult for ult, and they can maybe win the rest of this fight. Midtown safe and sound off in the back line. Pulls 1 kill over onto Ares. Dintic in range as well. Here come the kills. Carnage Gaming have 2 left standing, and Parallax, the most convincing mid-fight we've seen yet.
Yeah, I think that getting that overpower off, and okay, fine, great, I got her. That's why he tried to throw her at low ground. He wanted her to be killed immediately. He didn't want the assert dominance to be used, and of course, Ashe just uses it, makes it right back on, and of course, that story of whether they got the pick on Ashe or not became extremely different, because the fact that she was very alive and well and was holding it down against 2 people at that Con and the Cassie made it so much harder for them to kill her, and it opened up the door for Parallax to follow up.
Fun, I'm suddenly maybe hearing some Game 5 over the horizon if Parallax Gaming continue to play the way that they have here. This combination of Strix and Maeve has just been way too much, hasn't it? I mean, it seems like whether it's Mitau popping off or maybe it's a Spexy who's getting big kills, and now they both have a chance to clean up some of these low health bars on the left-hand side of the fight here. Enough damage back from Carnage Gaming will make things difficult, but here comes the cleanup. Now Parallax Gaming in a good spot. Mitau with 1, a Spexy with 1, Outlander with 1 as well. Carnage Gaming, they're going to lose a lot of ground here, and this payload's going to get moving.
Yeah, and that's all she wrote for Carnage for now while they're playing Gray Screen Simulator. They got to make sure they get out of spawn and, of course, come back to contest the objective. But this is definitely the time where I think Parallax, they've got a minute and 20 left. They're going to build those ultimates back up. They're going to use them. Like, it's 3-2
Absolutely.
right now, and they have plenty of time remaining. They're going to force out a lot of these ultimates on the side of Parallax Gaming. They're going to build them up, and of course, that might be curtains because they don't have really anything that stops the assert dominance. Of course, the overpower is steadily building up, but if Genos manages to get a pick or some damage onto someone with his new time and space, I think that means even a lot more than them just regularly having assert dominance or an immortal. They get the kill on cools, and everyone seems to be dying.
They're all getting the kills. Parallax Gaming are. This cart will roll in. Parallax Gaming have tied up the set. Man. Into Game 5 we go.
And I think that is rough if you're on Carnage's side. You take 2 games off of the undefeated team in Brazil, and now all of a sudden it feels like the lead is slowly slipping away and out of your hands I'm not too sure. I feel like the draft could have been good enough. I feel like the Cassie was there to be able to sort of shut down the Fernando, shut down the Ashe. It could have been there, but I think having that IO, I think the Androxus had a rougher time trying to do anything because Mitao was really just popping off. He was hitting his shots, and anytime he was up in the air, he had to be worried about getting one tap by Mitao, and it just ended up falling apart towards the end.
Carnage Gaming, they need to figure out these mid-fights as well. I mean, since game one, they have just not looked comfortable on any mids. Except, wow. One of the last ones in our previous couple games. They've gone down in these mid-fights on a pretty consistent basis. That's something they're going to have to turn around here in game number 5. We'll get there, though, after Aggro and Kresnik break this one down.
Thank you, Dave and Fawn, and would you guess it? We're going to a Game 5. Parallax continues to fight and scrap after going down 2-0. Carnage Gaming probably felt real good after being up 2-0, but have now been brought back down to reality. And Kresnik, I find myself agreeing with what Dave was just saying. Even though they were up 2-0, Carnage has not looked great on mid-fights. Remember, think back to that Ascension peak that they won in Map 2. They only won one mid-fight, and it was 0.7.
Yeah, they need to figure out something to deal with the tanks, I think, on the side of Parallax. I mean, of course, we're seeing the pop-off from Midtown and Spexy, but the oppression from Dintic on this Ashe, I feel it in every hold that they do. You saw the first mid, the Khan just backs off. Normally, Khan should be able to take advantage of that matchup, but he just leaves to not let that fight really happen. They try to use the overpower on him, but it's too late. He has Rezil already. He's able to survive that. I just feel like Dintic is a wall that Carnage just can't figure out how to get through. They might just have to straight up ban Ashe in some of these games in the last game to come.
I think that might be on their mind as well, and Spexy likely setting up his living room as he's starting to live rent-free in Carnage Gaming's head. He has just been absolutely tearing them up these last 2 games. Another massive game here on the Mave. 17 elims, 80,000 player damage. You can ban the Eevee, but he's going to find something.
Yeah, no, Spexy is so flexible that you can't really target him, I think, as effectively unless your comp specifically gets owned by one pick that he has as he goes 17-6 here on Fish Market Mave. Someone that was winning, I think, slowly more over time as the phase went on, and it's such a flexible pick when you're good with it, as Spexy clearly is very good with it. I think cool, though, bright spot for his team. Actually, the rest of his team combined only ended up having one more kill than him on the Androxus. You need the rest of everyone to pull their weight, I think, but he was the only one not getting, again, kind of stonewalled by Dintic on this Ashe.
And the only one above 200 credits per minute. I think Cool definitely had a pretty good game for himself, but unfortunately it's a team game and you're not always going to be able to do it all by yourself. Cool absolutely needing some help as we move on to map number 5. This set really delivering as advertised in an otherwise 3-0 ridden day as we go to Splitstone Quarry here at the very end. And this is, I'm a little surprised that Carnage picks this here, Kresnik, if only because I feel like Ashe can be okay here, but mostly Eevee and Mave, the picks that Spexy's really been killing you with, should be really great here, right?
Yeah, they should be amazing, and he can also play any other vertical characters that you end up giving him. At the end of the day, Mave, Eevee, Buck, Andro, all of them are going to be able to, I think, thrive here on Splitstone and own them from above. But what this could be, depending on how the bans go, as they do get rid of Spexy's Eevee again, if Parallax don't ban Ruckus, that could be something that really kind of helps them snowball it. Give Rashao that Ruckus. It's great on this map. They're already targeting that ROM, so unless they focus on another dive tank afterwards, Carnage could just start with that and say, give us Spexy whatever you want. We're going to lean on whatever Rashao can do.
Interesting ban. So Eevee and Bomb King taken away. A lot of respect being paid to this Bomb King on Parallax Gaming. It's been banned from them in a bunch of games now, as you're right on the head. Rom and Ruckus taken off the board. And look, that means there's a lot of good stuff available. Io, Torvald, Makoa. I mean, there's a lot that you can go with. And they decide to go with the Mave. I'm really identifying that Spexy has been the one giving them maybe the most trouble, maybe even above that Ashe. But I agree with you. I think that the Ashe has been equally problematic.
But now they've picked a DPS that can just not fight her. And I think that's all they really need to do. If they could just kite her, run away, maybe have one person stop one of her dashes, that's 10 seconds before she can really rotate and kind of be a part of the fight again. And Parallax, they're not even going to go for the Ashe because I think they recognize that. They don't want to give Carnage the picks that can deal with that as effectively play that ignore game. So they'll get damage boost, they'll grab a flanker that can duel them. And Makoa picked up in response. He can be great on this map, but I don't know if I love it with that kind of outside mobile style that Makoa really wants to be playing inside of Quarry with his half shell.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of splitting the difference here. Buck can be pretty mobile and get where he needs to go and is down to play that outside game. Makoa might be left inside with his half shell just kind of sitting there waiting for everyone to return back to the nest. As Fernando once again here from Parallax, it's to the point now, Kresnik, where it's not just they feel like Fernando might fit one or two compositions. Fernando just seems to be a pick that Parallax likes almost all the time.
He's a great main tank. I'm actually surprised he wasn't getting picked up in the other regions quite as much. He just has such a presence on the point. Issue is maybe low damage sometimes. When you're shielding, you're not actually putting on any pressure. But if you don't care about that, if you just want a tank with an amazing ultimate that really won't die unless you focus on him, I think he fits in basically anywhere, with Strix also following him up. I mean, with how Mitau just played, you got to give it to him, right? I don't think you can not want to give him that Strix again. But Carnage, they're just going with a solo tank. They have the triple DPS and a Corvus to back it up. These are three more sustainy than you think damage dealers, and that could be the edge that they want here. Just out-heal maybe what that damage boost is doing. See if their extra healing, extra DR can maybe offset the Luminary boost that Parallax's support will be giving them.
Yeah, interesting that they decided to go with the Corvus, but when you look at the rest of the composition, I think we see why we don't see IO this time around and instead focus on someone who can heal you wherever you are. And Maeve and Buck in particular are going to be pretty far away from the backline the vast majority of the time. What do you think, Kresnik? Can Carnage get back to how they were playing in the first two maps of this series, or do you think Parallax has too much momentum now?
I think they can actually win the point fight. I think they can control lava with their flankers, and I think Vivian will make things very difficult for the Nando to commit there. It's just about how quickly can the Andro on Parallax strike and catch out that Vivian, because if that fight goes their way, then the point becomes so free for them.
It all comes down to this. Parallax Gaming up against Carnage Gaming, a finals berth on the line here in game number 5.
No more talking about Parallax needing to win 3 straight games. Carnage Gaming go up 2-0. Parallax win the last 2. And now it all comes down to one. Tournament life not on the line for either of these two teams, but an automatic berth into the finals is fun. We go in to game number 5 on Splitstone Quarry. Some similar faces on these teams, some a little bit different. I think having that Strix for Mitau is going to be massive, though.
But I think the thing is that, okay, Mitau may be on the Strix, but I wanted to bring up a point it was that Kresnik brought up beforehand. Notice, this isn't the point, but it's notice how Vivian has booby trap. The point is that Kresnik brought up was the fact that you have 3 very sustaining DPS, more than you might think. Now, Buck, I can understand that. Bulk up, give you the extra health, heals you more. You have the DR as well from deep breathing. That makes sense. But Vivian's shield, gotta keep that, gotta have the respect for that. Ares on the Maeve, she has some sustainability as well. And look at this, they're already full sending into the opposing team's base.
Parallax Gaming have to back off here. Nobody on the point just yet. 6%, 9%. That's all we've really gotten. Negligible difference there. Carnage Gaming will start to take up that mantle as Scooter continues to lock down the right-hand side, but you can only give Mitau so much time and space to operate, and he'll find first blood. Spexy is right there to fill in the gap as well, and Scooter takes a tumble for the second death of the game. And look at the way the pressure has shifted. Suddenly it's Parallax Gaming feeling more confident.
Rachel went to the point to gain percentage, but Mitau goes, oh, look, a free kill. And then you get hit for 1915. It doesn't matter how much health you have,
that hurts.
how much bulk up's going to grant you. It's kind of ridiculous. And I think that's what you have to keep in mind is the fact that it's like, okay, great, you're winning the fights, but still, don't get too overzealous. Your comp is great at living. You can dive in like you're seeing right now, and they're being forced to backpedal because of it.
It's Carnage Gaming, who's had difficulty with the Parallax retake, need one of their own now, and they've at least done so successfully for a moment. But Rochelle gets staggered out by Mitau. The sniper seems to be going big in the moments that Parallax need him most. 81 to 81%. This one is going to come down to the wire. Oh my god, somebody stop this guy. Mitau with another, this time onto Ares. A hook right back down from Carnage Gaming. That'll help with the kill onto a Spexy. Dintic there for some big damage. Mitau hitting the big shots. Flashbang goes down. Dintic with 3. Parallax Gaming, they'll tally their first point.
And that comes down to, once again, Rachel gets picked off pretty early. Sure, Maeve is able to touch thanks to the pounce, uses the reset, gets back out, at least for like a couple seconds, and then she gets picked off of Mitau, right? But the point it is that I'm making is that Rachel gets picked off again, and that's just from the superior positioning that Mitau is able to achieve with the Strix, the freedom it is that it seems like he seems to constantly have on this sniper. And then you also have situations like this where, once again, Rachel pushing up way too far. He may not have jumped in and been in the middle of 5 people, but the angle he was holding, that's not the type of angle you want to hold against characters that can melt you pretty quickly. Fernando's damage can be underestimated sometimes, and I think people don't realize how much he actually hurts when he tosses fireball at you. You have to keep that in mind. But it seems like, for the most part, that Carnage have worked some stuff out that allows them to defend.
That was the most important fight, I think, for Carnage Gaming, the one that just occurred, where there was this kind of immense building pressure from Parallax right on the other end of the mid-fight, and if that kept going, Carnage Gaming are already backed up way around that first choke point, so the ability to slow things down, more important, I think, than ever for Carnage Gaming. They were able to do so. So now we look at what the Parallax response is. You're going to send Mitau over to the right-hand side here, look for an angle, but you got to worry about Ares. He'll clean up the kill onto a Spexy, who is quite low, but not quite finished off just a moment ago. Dintic will answer in kind, set up a kill onto Cool, and the sniper rings true once again. Now Dintic in a bit of an awkward position, though. Gets pulled right back in. Oh, but the Immortal perfectly positioned to keep the Androxus alive. A cursed arm. Thinks he's found a target. A couple of the shots missed. Does some damage. And Parallax Gaming, Fawn, at least have maybe done enough to get this cart moving.
It seems like, for the most part, the Parallax are able to hold on pretty consistently despite having lost Dintic already. Fernando has to find some sort of way out of there. I don't think he stays in there and lives for much longer. Same way that Aspexy isn't going to live much longer either. They all get brought down super low. It's that choke point that becomes a problem. You're playing into a half-shell Makoa. He drops the shell shield down. You have to push in through a couple more spots to try and make your team seem more relevant overall, because of the fact that if you're shooting in a half-shell, Kresik says it plenty of times, and I'm sure you guys who watch the broadcast, he hates that. And everyone should hate doing that. Don't shoot into the half shell, because it reduces the cooldown of the next time the shell comes off of cooldown. Right. When it gets depleted and it disappears, he gets a lot of that refunded back. You have to respect the shell shoot.
That's a great point there, Fawn, and something that has made this Makoa more difficult to deal with than maybe Parallax were bargaining for. This is going to be a long push if Parallax are able to get things done. Carnage Gaming have held this card effectively where it's at since this defense started. Exit stage left, says Crimson, and Kronz will be pulled off to the side, but Mitau suddenly makes things interesting. A double kill from the Strix, seemingly out of nowhere, will keep the cart in contention within range. Ares forgoes the Strix, and maybe that was a bit of a mistake. Dintic with one as well. Fawn, there's no way this goes in, right?
No, I don't think so. They have to wait at least for their Fernando to come back. It depends on what happens now. When they round this corner, when they get past this bridge, who's going to be the first one to fall? It looks like Mitau's already pretty low, and they do get the pick, so that's what it comes down to. But at least they trade things out.
That's right. It's a couple of kills for Carnage, one for Parallax. The defender respawn advantage is going to be massive here, and I think that'll be enough to get them over the finish line on defense. Carnage Gaming probably not happy with how close that got on defense, but are able to tally a point nonetheless. They've got all 5 ultimates ready to go going into the next mid. Don't want to hate on Strix, but the flashbang, that's okay to maybe be missing. You'll have the Immortal as well, so Parallax definitely in a good spot as well.
Yeah, and I think having 54,000 damage on Vivian is great. I think what needs to happen is they dove in pretty hard earlier. I completely get that. Their draft can do that. Carnage Gaming's draft can do that, because they don't have to really worry about much. Spreading influence is going to be completely okay. He has good burst healing. Corvus, you can depend on him. But I think Rachel has to just chill a little bit, just a tiny bit, not too far. But I think he's getting picked off too consistently, and I think that's hurting his team because their draft would indicate the fact that they can get in a little bit more easier. But how did he die so quickly?
I missed that entirely. I have no idea. I don't know what just happened there. Maybe it's a mid-tow shot followed up by an Aspexy shot, something along those lines, because that was way too quick into this mid-fight. And look at the way Parallax have taken advantage. 57%. They have not had to use any ultimates. Carnage Gaming are going to have to use theirs as retake tools. Parallax are going to use theirs as defensive tools. Dintic, early use of the Accursed Arm. I don't think he fires any shots here. He'll get the 61% refunded. 60% plus the 1% tick afterwards. So not all is lost there. Parallax Gaming, they've made up some great ground off of one pick.
Yeah, it seems like it at least allowed them to zone things out for a little bit more. That through time and space forces things out even more so. But the Ancient Rage is the story here as Kronz and Dintic both get picked off. I think Rachel moves in, but this is perfectly fine for him to do that. They were able to get the kills because of it, whether he dies or not. That's neither here nor there. They got 2 picks. It made it that much more important and forces anyone that's remaining on the side of Parallax to back out. Now they've killed Genos, so they've stalled things out even more so.
This has been the weakness. This right here, Carnage Gaming, they've had control of the mids. They have not been able to slow down the Parallax retake. This is an opportunity to go up big here on Splitstone Quarry, but Parallax is here to fight nonetheless. Dintic will soar up and over. He sees Crimson around the side. Crimson with an opening kill.
Wow.
Dintic immediately answers back, though. No more healing suddenly for Carnage Gaming, but Carnage is finding the kills. Carnage is finding the presence, and Carnage Gaming will find the point.
It's all because of the fact that
Wow,
it's all
Pool
because of the
gets
fact
left
that
alone
Cool,
again.
that mid fight with Cool is great because Vivian's just going to focus down on whatever target is she sees, obviously, and make sure that she burns them. But with Booby Trap, it makes it even more so because it's a do not stand here type of talent, right? And you step on the mine, it's going to end up blowing up. The sensor drone is going to go off your reveal. She might get bonus lifesteal when she's hitting you after you've been revealed, stuff like that. And I think that it's an overall downfall of Parallax, to try and push in and get those fights when Cool is just sitting, chilling on the point and just focusing whoever comes into his line of sight. That's literally what just happened there. They ended up burning him down just like they do in Mineshaft.
There's a minute and a half left, and Parallax Gaming are going to milk even more of that away as they're finding some kills here. I say that, Ares out of nowhere.
Man.
3 kills on the board. Rochelle will take away the 4th, Crimson the 5th. Carnage Gaming looked like they were swept. And then a big play from Ares keeps things interesting here. Parallax Gaming, they're going to be back at respawning. And look at how close this cart is going to get. Sentinels are going to be ready. Buck Wild there as well. Ancient Rage and Tropic Breach just behind, as well as the Midnight. Can Ares go big for his team? Yet again, into the through time and space. Unfortunate there as Outlander will find one, but Scooter, he'll pick up the damage mantle here. 2 kills now for the Makoa. Backing away is the Fernando, but can you stay alive? You sure can't. Rochelle will pull one back. Carnage Gaming have life. 1 point away from handing Parallax their first loss.
I mean, you love to see it. I understand. I completely get it. Having first, second seed, that's not crazy. Like you were saying earlier, for the game to be this close, first, second seed, this is what you typically expect, right? But Parallax has proven time and time and time again, they are the team. They are the guys to be worried about, to be concerned about, because they went undefeated. And now here they are losing. The one time it matters that they lose, it's happening right now.
Lose in the middle of the year, not right now.
Right. Yeah, like you lose during the phase, if anything. Don't lose during the World Championship. You work so hard to get here, and while it may not be elimination, if they lose, that does mental damage to a team. It doesn't matter, especially if you go undefeated.
Well, it just makes our next matchup, one way or another, all that much more interesting. Parallax Gaming, they're first onto the point here. Ares, unconcerned, gets the kill onto Dintic. Midtow on the fadeaway. Will pull one back, though. Not perfectly clean from Carnage Gaming. Scout, Midnight, both used at the exact same time. Carnage Gaming take up the point here. 42% and climbing. Parallax Gaming will be back and respawning. Midtow's got a big role to play here, up on the high ground. Both of those ultimates canceling one another out. It's going to be 66%. Still climbing for Carnage Gaming. Parallax Gaming not giving themselves a lot of room to operate. Dintic, Accursed Arm. Will this one work out? He does find a decent bit of damage. Parallax Gaming with 2 kills. Carnage Gaming continuing to stand strong on the point into the Immortal. Goes Dintic here. Will Scooter stay alive? Scooter wants the Ancient Rage. Scooter's got the Ancient Rage. Mitau with one. Scooter swings away with one of his own. One swing away from a double. Big swing from Scooter, keeping Carnage Gaming in this fight. Now Ares back and respawning. Just needs some more damage. Hit the daggers. Unable to do so. 96% Rochelle on the back of the point. Are you kidding me? Carnage Gaming. They send Parallax down.
They were on the point when that was happening. That was all off of the back of Scooter. The Ancient Rage being used. The Makoa drew them away. Fernando dashed to chase after him. As soon as the shell spin happened, they chased him all the way down. Bucks taunting on the objective. Maeve may have not gotten the daggers that they needed to get the kill, but Rachao the entire time just made it back. That's turtle power, if anything. That's what I will say. It's absolutely amazing to see that happen because they were so enveloped in making sure that Fernando was dead. He already gets a double kill. He pops off, gets rid of Genos, gets rid of Strix, and it forces Fernando to chase him. And because of that, they completely forego the point.
And I guess at this point, Parallax was 16-0 over their last 16 games because they had won earlier today. 16-1 for Parallax Gaming. Down to the losers bracket they go. We'll see if they're able to bounce back after this loss in our next match of the day. But before we get there, Aggro and Kresnik will tell us how this happened.
Well, Parallax Gaming do not stay undefeated here in phase number 2. Their championship dreams still alive, but wounded. After being sent down into the losers bracket, Carnage Gaming finally get it done. Kresnik, how about that? What a performance from the second seed.
Oh yeah, for sure. Carnage, in my eyes, they've been improving, I think, over the season, other than maybe the final week where they said, oh, we're hiding strats. And everyone's like, all right, well, that's a great excuse, but now show up. And apparently, yeah, I guess they were hiding strats. They were hiding the Scooter pop-off on Makoa in the last game strat. He did, I think, a fantastic job on that last fight. Ancient Rage in the core of their team, and just so much space made for Ares, too, by Rachao. Even though he was a little inconsistent in hitting his primaries, when he did, it was always 2 or more.
Really, really great work by Carnage. These few plays, man, I mean, you just get the right moment and you're able to capitalize. It's exactly what Carnage was able to do here against Parallax. Really difficult whenever you go down 2-0 to complete the reverse sweep, and you see that here, I think, in this set, that you feel like they're about to do it, but they just run out of gas at the very end. A beautiful Ancient Rage is highlighted by Fawn, and Rachao gets it done by himself in order to get that cap completed. Carnage Gaming finally put an L in Parallax Gaming's column for the first time that any team has done it here in phase number 2.
And looking at this is the first game that I think they've really shut down a Spexy here. 5-11 on him, not really able to get too much done. I want to say that's on the back of these flankers, even though Cool NZ, the one with the stats, that is just kind of, I think that's par for the course with a backline being enabled the way that he was. But I feel like Dintic and Spexy really could not go through the half shell that was going up in their way. Ares trying to get aggressive. Rachao soaking 63,000 damage on his own, only 30k less than a proper tank would have been able to. I think the way that they played around it, plus that Corvus, it was just overwhelming for the Parallax backline.
And now In Control gets a upset Parallax Gaming team down in the lower end, and now Carnage gets to look on and see what Parallax wants to do here. Our first non-3-0 goes the distance. Carnage Gaming, unbelievable upset up against Parallax, and now Parallax has to learn how to bounce back from a loss for the first time in a couple months. I don't think that's nothing, right? I mean, you've got to be able to come back mentally from that and bounce back up against an In Control team that, despite getting 3-0'd by Carnage, looked awfully good up against Ignite.
Yeah, they looked really strong against Ignite, so I think Parallax have to be ready. And if they were hiding strats up to this point, now is definitely the time for them to pull it out and try to play around maybe Spexy a little less hard as they were, because I felt like Spexy popped off in all the rounds that they won, and when he finally got shut down, he wasn't able to do as much. I think maybe lean more on mid-tower, let the tanks, focus on your tanks in the draft to allow them to make room for the DPS that was clearly not gifted to them that much on Splitstone.
Can't wait to see if Parallax is able to bounce back or can now in control knock out the #1 seed here in Brazil. Make sure you don't go anywhere. Paladins World Championship is coming right back.